keep Ted online. Good. Okay, very good.
I hear you.
Good evening. This is the Town of Fairfield Commission acting as new and agency meeting of March 6, 2024. I'm going to take roll. I'll leave the comments myself. I'm here. Vice Chair Dabney Valley is here. Commissioner Carol Verlesi is here. Commissioner Jay King is here. Peter Hood is here. Commissioner Peter Mahoney is here. Commissioner Ted Luxinger is online. Right, we see him and he's waving. Wonderful. As is Commissioner Diane Saunders. Welcome again. Okay. And I will appoint Diane Saunders tonight as full member. Okay. And you might not be able to put on the one thing when we get to it. I'll let you know when that time comes. Okay. Wasn't here at all. So yes. Okay. Let's get to number 3, approval of the draft meeting minutes. Anybody
fine? Make a motion to approve.
Anybody second that motion to approve the minute? 8 seconds. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right. I just realized I'm sorry. I'm gonna amend just for the first 2. Dan, only because you weren't here and we have 2 public hearings. Okay. So I'm going to unappoint Diane for tonight and give you some time to get into it because you weren't there for some of these things. Okay, so I'm appointing Ted Luxinger as a full member tonight because he did participate. So that makes it easier for us. Okay, Terry, you got that? Yeah, okay. No. The voice, there was no big deal. It's not an important thing.
I accept.
Okay, very good. Going on to Roman numeral 4, it's the public hearing section, and number 1 was the continuation of WT-23- LLC 447 Stratfield Road, map 31, parcel 202, Riverbank Stabilization and Regulated Area. The decision may be made if the hearing is completed, or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe is March 13, 2024. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicant, so further public hearing continuations to May 17, 2024 possible. If the hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. The staff recommends approval with conditions. Everybody here for that, and if you are, please come up to this table here. Name and
Evening, Jimmy DeBartolomeo with Sound Engineering Associates.
welcome.
Just to review, last month we proposed a short riverbank stabilization design, and there were some comments. We took those comments and we incorporated them. Ability that we can do here. There's limited things we can do given the circumstances of this riverbank. What we did is we extended stabilization 26 feet. This was reviewed with the downstream property owner. Okay. And on the upstream side, conditions are such that the river basically follows these contours here from with this, and the actual termination of this should be very close, right at the property line. We did, however, get permission from both neighbors to do incidental work on their property. neighbor's property. So that's part one. Part two, there was a request that we incorporate some plantings into the design. We added slope. And then comment number three was asked if we could look at providing some way of dissipating the energy of the so we incorporated large boulders at the basically at the toe of the embankment, and as long as if these are properly sized, they're going to be the largest stones we can get that they can handle with the equipment, and they're going to do.
Any questions?
Quick question for staff. Do we have to do two separate applications or a different application?
That's something I was going to bring up. I think crossing property lines without individual permits would set for the future.
Okay.
I think they would have to, just as a formality, even though it's the same project, would have to be packaged under separate permits.
Would that be for each homeowner?
Yeah,
Okay.
property line.
I think that is correct, but I'd also like to work is done there. It's going to benefit all. So I would when those were to come should obtain, in addition to just the applications themselves, a few. I think we would be receptive to that.
Well, I guess the question is, do we have to keep this hearing open to get the hearing tonight and
No,
in that second?
we're going to close the hearing tonight. We'll vote on this. This will be there for that, but then with the information that was just provided, they
Can't be done on the neighboring properties.
yeah, the work just can't be done there. So whatever can be done.
We don't have to, those other applications don't have to have a public hearing. They can be done.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
I
just
think,
wanted to clarify that.
yeah, I think that could be staff level, counter level stuff. And we're aware of it. We saw the presentation. And I think that's,
I'm assuming all the neighbors are in agreement with this.
Yes, they are.
so,
I just wanted to thank Mr. DiBartolo because he addressed our comments and I think he did a very good job. So thank you
yeah,
very much.
thank you very
Good job.
much.
Thank you.
Can you, how did you come up with the 26 feet? The curiosity?
We went, and we were able to locate, well, first we had the surveyor there to extend the topography. We were able to locate where we could see this, in fact, just as a point. This very end is really where the road stops for this entire stretch. So this is, and just to get this last 26 feet is really, I really agree with the commission's request on this, that this can't do much about what's happening upstream. But yeah, it's just the best way to approach it.
Yes, motion to close public.
Well, no, they have comments.
Okay. Just going to do another motion to open.
For this application?
For this.
You're here for 447?
That's me. Yep.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sorry. I thought you were here for another.
Well, I am, unfortunately.
Okay.
Here tonight on behalf of you.
Thank you. I apologize again.
I'm here on behalf of Brian Callahan and Colleen Connor.
Thank you.
They are the contract purposes of this lot and the house that's being built on the lot. And they totally supported the application. And they have just three comments they asked me to make in reference to the staff recommendation. One, they're concerned about the additional 15 feet that's being asked for. Already been 10 feet from the property line in. Another 50, it's just not that big a backyard, and I think it starts to actually, this story got it. I don't know why it's really fair to post this up. That's number one. Number two, I believe, staff recommendation was that the work could only be done between June and September. Did I have that right?
Flow periods, yeah.
And, that house is under construction. They want to be able to, they would like to be able to get the work done, I think, sooner rather than later, only because the house is under construction. Driving the trucks, yeah. Easy to drive the trucks back there now before the house is fully built. And finally, I will ask that maybe you can take care of this or take note of this, instruct staff, agreement. Done a year ago. And
We went on the sidewalk, so I know what you mean.
did everyone see this when you saw it? And it would seem very opportune at this moment to, I mean, at this time when the work is being done, to pull that out. If Mr. Lobo can do so. And perhaps, I hope he doesn't need to. I think it's causing a problem both for this property and downstream. You can see that it's actually causing a little island behind the silt is making an island there in the middle of the river. Largely the result of the stump being there. So the tree, it was a whole tree. I think the town's cut half the tree off or most of the tree off, but left the stump. Don't know why. And I'm sure that staff would have to kind of supervise the removal. So number one, there's no trucks don't go into the river, either intentionally or fall in and we try to pull it out. And that's the third request. And finally, did you mention that it would be appropriate maybe to waive the fee with the second application? You're talking about that. And other than that, those are my comments. Okay. Appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Well, before you go, any commissioners, any questions?
What's the
reason that you want-
recommendation for the additional 15-foot of conservation easement? Is that it?
Yeah, just as a point of riparian buffer.
Easement that was supposed to be planted is now being part of the stabilization with the rocks, so we wanted additional plantings.
Point out that it started out as 10 feet. And now
Yeah, it's
15.
It's
It's actually 25, but you had 15.
it's been, well, I think when this was decided back in 2018, there was an additional 20 feet of, there was an additional 20 feet of land there that had been, when they asked for the when it was approved with an easement for the house at that point, it was a 10-foot buffer that was supposed to be easement and planted. Since then, 20 feet has been lost. They did the easement on the 10 feet, but now that 10 feet of easement will be part of the stabilization plan. So we wanted more room for plantings.
So as this all said and done, it's going to actually be 45 feet. Originally started because we lost 10 for second. It was supposed to be 10 feet on the river. 10 feet got washed away when the plan was mapped. Then that 10 feet is what we're talking about now. Now we're talking another 15. Plus 35 total because it started out to the first 10.
Okay.
And Mr. Hood, you asked why we want to get the tree out here?
I'm just curious.
I mean, it fell into the river, washed down, and it will either flush downstream and cause problems with something else, or may cause the water to swirl around here. Who knows?
It was a different property when we were there a year ago.
It was a different property when we were there 6 years ago. This has been going on for a long time. 2007, there's comments on it, and of course, it showed that the problem across the river, which seems to be very good.
My opinion is that, we need to have it's a riparian area, we need to have a riparian. Sorry that it got washed away, but that's kind of the reason why we need it. So I
Exactly right.
wouldn't want to waive that particular aspect of, it's not that much, and I think there's a large backyard here, it seems to be anyway.
It's not that large. It's 60 feet total, and now you're taking 15 away. It's getting it's small.
What was this? then you have to do this, you know, I don't know if staff can, if, it depends on what, you know, right now with the weather the way it is, it's always going to be wet. So, but we have to look for the time of year when it's appropriate to do the work. So, you know, I think that we leave that up to staff. If there was a period of low flow and it was, like, they could do it, that's fine. But if it's like this, when we
Can I
get
be
having
real
4
nice?
inches of rain every 4 days, you're stuck. I think that's my opinion. And then the last thing is, I don't know how you guys feel. I kind of like the, you know, the idea of having some kind of living things on the river.
No, it's not living. It's a dead
It's a living thing. It's part of the environment. The animals live in it, insects live in it, fish use it. You know, it's part of the natural thing. But I guess if it could be done without damaging the river, and you certainly couldn't bring equipment there. I think I'd leave it up to staff to use, you know, to get their guidance on that during the construction process.
I'm happy to go out there if they approve it. I did have the conversation with Public Works and Engineering. I showed them this picture. I believe that tree was cut 2 years ago on town open space further upriver. I was on site at the time. Public Works, the tree had fallen in the middle and was cut. And you could see the fresh cut, well, not so fresh, but chainsaw cut on there. Public Works could not pull it out with a backhoe from Woodside Circle, where it was. I think this is the same tree. I imagine that there's too many of these floating around. Public Works and Engineering would support its removal, but I understand the ecological perspective that Commissioner Fain pointed out. I think if it could be removed, either chains or straps with a large excavator from the shore without having to go in, then I'd be happy to be on site and oversee them to prevent any damage or culvert, downstream culvert, logging, flooding.
Who owns, where that tree is? That split between property owners?
One of them is the town.
Town's part of
I
it.
think the town owns, I can't remember. They own one piece of property on Woodside, and I think it's that right across the river, and I think it's there.
Yeah.
It might be one lot upstream, but I don't think so.
It's pretty close to our open space where we cut it.
Okay. Just, you know, organizations like Trout Unlimited cut trees and put them in the river just for to create habitat. In this particular instance, because it's the Rooster River and there's especially flooding history, it could be done for lots and flooding. I think so I can support it from that point of view, but you know, we always need to take that ecological perspective.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I don't mind the idea of taking the tree out, but it's just, makes more of the case to do it when the flow is low in the summer. Disturbance to wildlife habitat is minimized.
Also, just for the record, the time that was selected is pretty standard in other permits and it's consistent with Connecticut DOT's and in the Fed's request on the Wakeman Lane Bridge that the agency just oversaw. So that was for those dates.
Understand that, only saying that this is a case where there's work in progress on the lot. The equipment's there now. If it could be done, but that's.
Counselor, that's where I'm going. It's who's responsible? Like who's the work's being done on this lot, but is it their backyard with the town? So do these people have to talk to the town to get the work done? Are there other property owners?
I think the idea was that Mr. Lobo could pull it out from this lot without going on the town property around the other side of the river, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the reason we're asking for it, is while the equipment is here.
And while he's pulling it out, it's solely on this applicant's land and the town?
Accessible from his property.
It's accessible. But is there, I'm just concerned there isn't another property owner across that might want it there, who's not here, who doesn't know about it, who's not here tonight. So that, I'm not sure. No, it's a cut down tree that the town did, but maybe it's shifted and it's not only on town property and this applicant's property. Is there any other person who might have a right to it, who might object to its removal is all I'm just throwing it out there because I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Grateful.
I just
And
don't,
would be
Glad that you're thinking.
well, I think I got that Mr. Lobo,
Right.
if he's willing to do it, but, you know, maybe the town's help, but I just don't. These are simply,
This confirms that it is town property.
okay,
So it's not really town property on the other side of
It's
the
the other
river
side.
from us.
Right.
The question is how far down, they're bringing it.
way to go. Right. If this might be
I
some,
think it's off right out the back, but it might actually be one lot upstream. I don't. I'm looking at it. I don't know.
and then I don't,
Well, do you know?
I'm not sure if it's
You're not sure either. All right.
As for the tree,
I'm
I
pretty
don't think
sure
it's appropriate for us to discuss it tonight without knowing where it lies. People have riparian rights, and that's part of it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, well,
But thank you for bringing it up to our attention, and maybe we can discuss it more. But
we can figure it out.
as people,
Send a letter to the commission
Sure.
saying where it is, or
To make
yeah,
the
Mac.
condition if it's proved to be on this property.
sure, yeah, if that's the case, but as we are right now, we're in the middle of the public hearing.
Yeah.
So I just want to understand where we are. So you spoke, commissioners, any other questions to council? Okay. Thank you. All right. Then,
Chairman, do you want to close the public hearing if we see a public?
can we do that?
Tonight. You can close it, then just wait to get the commission.
Yeah, because if we close it, we have 35 days. Before I close, I'll ask if there's anybody here in person that'd like to speak in support of this application. Please come up, name, address, and keep in mind, we had a conversation. Germane this like that.
Good evening, John McCoy, 427 Stratford Road, Jason, stream from the property. Last time I spoke, I was speaking with folks and seeing. I am believe it and support it. I believe it's necessary. We didn't have to be good faith. What's left of their property is 20 feet. The time I've been there, 50 feet of property loss. So I think it's necessary, and I think my concerns were alleviated by extending the wall to the last bend that has been waiting. Concerning the tree that I just heard, I just want to remind everybody during the major flood, which I think there's a video of it in the record, that several trees and large stumps ended up downstream in Bridgeport and clogged up the entire mess. This is due to seeing things further up. So it may be an aesthetic thing. I believe it's a necessary thing to prevent further flooding and damage downstream to affect many more people. Jason. But again.
Oh. We take your information into account, and I think we also saw a letter late today that you signed that you said you're,
They have permission to
yeah, okay.
continue the wall onto my
Very good.
property. I think it's gonna help protect my concerns.
Sure.
My property, but also folks need.
What it is and how it works, some potential and all that stuff.
Yes,
Very good. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Before I do that, anybody online like to speak in support of this application? Anybody here and person that'd like to come up and speak in opposition to this application? Anybody online that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Any set, that's Commissioner Alessi, seconded by Commissioner Fain. Okay, all in favor to close Around 10 is a yes if there as well. Public hearing is now closed. And let's move on to number 2. 18-23-150. Mr. Mead, 875 Hill Road, map 228, parcel 95, construction of a pool, patio, drainage improvements, and fencing. This public hearing was opened on January 3rd, 2024. The original 35 for the public hearing. The hearing ended on February 7th, 2020. The applicant has provided 8 days time extension, so the public hearings continue to March 6th, 2020. Further 37 days may be provided by the applicant. So further public hearing to April 3rd, 2024 is possible. Hearing is completed, the agency shall make a decision within 35 days. So the commissioners that are eligible to vote, myself, Commissioner Bowen, Commissioner Bain, Commissioner Hood, Commissioner O'Mahony, and Commissioner Luxinger. The commissioners that were not present, Commissioner Boucher is not here, and it's only Commissioner Alessi. Commissioner Alessi, you are out. Okay, so Commissioner is out. So it's the commissioners I just named, excluding Alessi, Commissioner Alessi, and we are all here, and we will be the ones voting. You're still, you can listen, you can ask questions. Okay, so the applicants request a fee waiver. There's a verified petition to intervene under Connecticut General Statute, Section 22A-19, that's been received. And then finally, the staff recommends approval with conditions. So this is a continuation of public hearing. It's still open. Hello, everyone. Please, why don't you guys say?
For the record, John Fallon representing the applicant. Good evening to everyone. We were here on January 3rd. Basically, I'll briefly recap what happened, but briefly being the term. In the final analysis, you basically asked us to do or consider 3 things. One, you wanted confirmation that the town engineering department had reviewed this application and approved it. They have, and you have that confirmation. You asked us to consider expanding the buffer. We've done that. We filed some time ago some plans that my colleague, Mr. Kenny, will briefly review with you. And lastly, we determined, based upon a lot of what we heard at the hearing, that although probably a little bit over and above, it would be appropriate to prepare a watershed study, which we had Mr. Flaherty has done, who you are well familiar with, and he'll give a brief overview with regard to that. Basically, what this application, remember, since we haven't been together since January, is a new pool, hot tub, and a patio, and some perimeter fencing. And very importantly, as Craig reviewed very carefully at the last hearing, to make certain drainage improvements to install mitigated plantings as part of that. Could you put up the pool? Since it involved the pool, we did take, you'll see it at the bottom there, maybe. We did take advantage of a Google photograph, and basically, I'm just going to give you that. It's also been submitted online.
Yeah, I got it.
Y'all have it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to see one now.
Yeah.
I know I got it, but I do like this. I like this. I like
Yeah,
that.
it's good.
Yeah.
So that's just to show
Yeah.
a couple of things. One, that, pools are not out of place in this neighborhood. Sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry. They are quite common. And in fact, pools in adjacent direct proximity to the private pond that has been the subject of discussion by the interveners are also quite common. Indeed, the interveners have the largest pool in the area at 800 square feet at their property. And you also have 100 water bill. And I think you also recently received a letter from the property owners at 825. They also have a pool immediately adjacent, approximately 600 square feet, but immediately adjacent to the pond. That pool was approved under a certificate of wetlands conformance, which I will make part of your record, in 2019, was constructed during that period of time and was fully utilized and bond released in April of 2020. At no time was there any objections made by the current interveners in these proceedings with regard to the construction of that pool or the issuance of the certificate of wetlands conformance. But I don't know.
I just wanted, for the record here, it doesn't show the 845 parcel. I think identified. I just wondered if you could circulate it on the map and then have that as an exhibit.
Subject.
Subject.
No, the subject.
Oh, 87.
Thank you. Just wanted to have that identified for the record.
And then water bill and 825 are identified. But I'm not going to stray beyond that at this point. What I'd like to do is briefly summarize where we were at the last proceeding. I will then ask Craig to give you a brief overview of the watershed study. I'll ask Bill to give you a brief overview of the revised plans as it relates to the expanded buffer. But basically, as I said, there was a prior application, WP 22-169, that sought similar improvements that was withdrawn prior to our team becoming involved in this matter. I would say the basic goals of that plan were similar, what to permit the construction of a pool so that the family could enjoy a small recreational amenity like their neighbors have. And also, most importantly, the drainage improvements, because as were detailed at the last hearing, there is basically based upon this drainage issue, which was caused by numerous factors that were reviewed by Craig at the time. They've been deprived really of being able to utilize their yard and their lawn area for most of the year. That's what this application is about. It's a simple application to provide a small outdoor area for this young family to enjoy themselves seasonally. And it's also to allow them to significantly address the drainage concerns that have severely impacted the property during oftentimes of the year, rendering the property to be unusable. So at the last hearing in January, Craig reviewed the existing conditions, the proposed regulated activities, and the mitigative provisions that were undertaken. This included, and I would want to emphasize again, significant stormwater quality enhancements and the reduction in the rate and volume of stormwater runoff to the westerly property line. An infiltration system was described to you, which is proposed between the existing residents and the wetlands, will reduce peak flows and provide water quality volume storage. At the hearing in January, Bill Kenny, seated here with me, also reviewed and testified that there would be no adverse impacts associated with the proposed activities to wetlands or watercourses, detailed the enhancements and improvements to the wetlands functions that were contemplated, and discussed our program for a buffer and mitigative plantings. So at the end of the day, we come to you with that applications, 2 modest modifications that we'll discuss with you in a minute. But what is unchanged and uncontroverted, I believe, is that comparing the prior plan to the present plan that we asked for your approval on tonight, we have enhancement to stormwater quality, reduction to stormwater runoff, enhancement to wetlands function, and a sound, robust mitigative planting plan as well. You'll have a positive staff recommendation in your record. You now also have an engineering department sign off with regard to the plan and the revisions that have been made. So briefly, what I want to do now is we did do a watershed study since that became a matter of discussion. And I'd like Craig Flaherty, Brendan and Mead, his credentials I think are well known to the commission, to give you an overview with regard to those plans. Great.
Yeah, so I'll do 2 things just before I do the watershed study. I gave you a preview of changes we were likely to make on the stormwater management system design in order to satisfy engineering both to the engineering department requirements, but also to conform with very specifically your wetland regulations and item 7.13, section 7.13 of your wetland regulations that requires the 10-year post-construction flow to be at or below the 2-year pre-construction. So you have baked right into your regulations the requirement for some sort of reduction. And so in order to satisfy the engineering review, we are now just collecting the portion of the roof and making that tributary to infiltration system. Previously, we were also collecting portions of the driveway. And we added 3 additional culture units to the end of this infiltration system. So with the additional storage, treating the roof area, that is what led to the engineering department changes. The plans that were submitted on January 26th and the drainage report that was submitted on January 26th address. So because there was a lot of discussion about the flow tributary to this pond that straddles the property boundaries between the water road, heard a analysis of its drainage basin or its watershed, just to understand how our proposed improvements were interacting with that pond. So this is a 0.35 acre pond, and the watershed tributary to it is just under 5 acres. This information is, of course, from your GIS system, publicly available topography. There's about 1.02 acres of impervious coverage within that watershed. Impervious coverage from 100 Waterville Road, 829, 875, the subject site, 907, 975, and 1005 Millville Road. It's the driveways or roofs or other appurtenances. Those are all within the watershed, covering 20.9% of the watershed with hardscape. With the addition of the pool and spa and patio and terrace and so forth, the impervious coverage will increase by 3/10 of an acre to 1.05 acres, covering 21.6% of that watershed. But of course, as described, that increase in impervious coverage is mitigated more than enough by stormwater management system proposed, which has been by engineering. So we put together a chart that analyzed the difference in stormwater surface runoff during a rain event, whether it's 1-year event or 100-year event or everything in between. And we found approximately there would be a 0.4% to a 0.5% reduction in the peak and volume of flow. This, of course, as you know, since you have reviewed thousands, if not hundreds of applications from your time on the commission, is the very intentional aim, most development applications, because we're quite frankly trying to do things right these days, and also make up for some of the deals of the past where development occurs with no stormwater mitigation. But that only tells the surface water story. There's another part of the story, and that part of the story is groundwater, right? So this infiltration system, by design, is going to collect the water from the roof and give it an opportunity to soak into the ground. So the water that might have been shedding immediately off over land is now captured and soaks into the ground. And it's going to take longer for that water to get to the pond. Maybe some of the water goes all the way down to a deep aquifer, but some of the water is going to ride along hard pan layer and find another place to express, which is likely the edge of a wetland or water course. So it's just going to come out delayed, and that delayed response isn't captured in the typical peak runoff calculation that we do for rainfall. And there's anywhere between 233 cubic feet and 699 cubic feet that may infiltrate into the ground through that infiltration system, depending on the storm that you're looking at. Anyway, reducing surface water flow and increasing groundwater flow is an intentional result of the proposed plan and is designed to benefit downstream wetlands and water courses, including infiltrating groundwater will both serve to replenish deep underground aquifers, and it's healthier for downstream wetlands and water courses. Naturally, it takes longer for water to flow through earth soils as it migrates towards release points at lower elevations like wetlands and water courses. This filters and cools the water. And the introduction of groundwater recharge mimics a more natural condition of the tributary water as it tends to lengthen the hydro period associated with a particular rain event, incrementally keeping natural wetland and water course systems wetter. So Based on that analysis, I do not believe there's going to be any impact on the hydrology associated with the pond's gravel front. I'll point out, by the way, that this pool is, if you were just taking the regular area from ponds, it's well outside that regular.
Thank you, Greg. You also asked us at the January hearing to consider enhancements to the buffer area as we had then proposed it. We took those comments to heart, and we did in fact revise our buffer. And I will let my colleague Bill Kenny overview those modifications. Bill.
Good evening. What I'd like to do is just give a brief reminder of existing conditions and how that affected the design that we proposed. We submitted an initial design in October of last year, and then in January we submitted an updated one. All the property sloped from east to west. The house was built in the late 50s. House was built in many decades earlier when the road was built. It had a lot of drainage of water. And you have it's broken up into two primary types. When you think of it physically, you have a sloping piece here, and then it levels out. So it comes down and then it levels out. And that sloping area historically was fed by a lot of groundwater, but that's been pushed around. So that upper sloping area is relatively dry. So for decades, and it's functioning more as an upland, which is still just not wet. But the lower lying area is relatively level, shallow compression. Water sits in there. At the last, our initial plan, this is the initial plan, and this is the current plan. We had a planting along the western property boundary. It was about 10 feet wide and about 60 feet long, so about 600 square feet. The pool area extends outward of that area, so discussion about expanding that planting area. So we expanded it by about 50%, added another 300 feet to capture most of that low-lying area. It went from about 10 feet to now maximum 25 feet, so about an average of about 15 feet. Increase it with. We kept the shrub plantings and proposed tree plantings the same, and expanded the ground cover plantings by 10%. One thing I meant to do, based on the comments last time, that I didn't get around to do, make it clear that there is some planting on here that is not related to. The owner wanted to do this planting that was close to the wetlands, so actually not here. There's some screening planting here, some evergreen screening that is, we are not taking credit for that. They didn't put it in the. So that's pretty much the summary of the changes.
So you've expanded the buffer in terms of its dimensions as well?
Yes. So yep, the width went from 10 to a maximum 25. The total area.
Thank you. So what I think I would like to do probably is pause at this point and just reserve an opportunity to address any comments in rebuttal that may be made by the interveners. And summary has already been done, but I'll try to summarize again. But I would want to say that, and I will compliment my clients. They've been at this, as you know, for the better part of 2 years. They've spent an extraordinary amount of money. It's irrelevant to your considerations, but it's indicative of the commitment that they have made to use Mr. Flaherty's comments to do it right. Okay? And this is certainly the most comprehensively designed drainage system in conjunction with the installation of a pool that I've seen in 48 years. That's not my life. That's a practice, unfortunately. I wish it was my life. But so, yeah, so I just wanted to say that, and I hope we've done a good job responding to your considerations. And I will just reserve an opportunity for any final comments that might be relevant in light of further comments by the public or the intervener.
For that, would you entertain questions from commission? Anybody have any questions?
Just one.
Okay,
My understanding from last week was that the total water that you're going to deliver the property to the pond has changed. What's going to change is the how it's delivered. I just want to make sure that everybody is getting that. That's my understanding. Supplying the water is not going to be affected in any way. It's the delivery and treatment of the water as it's delivered.
I concur with your summary.
You know, do you want comments now or should we wait?
let's wait. Those
Yeah,
are
okay.
deliberative. This is just to get information from the
Want to make sure of that.
commissioner.
I got a
Just to get
question for,
information.
Mr. Kenny. The remaining lawn, have you given any consideration to using some type of grass that requires low fertilizer? Outside, maybe involve rescue.
I don't think so. SKU mix that requires less need for watering and also less need for fertilizer.
You don't need any water.
What's that?
You don't need any water.
No.
That's true.
Yeah, on a slope side, maybe as you go up. It's a very excellent low maintenance grass purposes.
Well, that was one of my questions. My other question was, I just want to confirm that in the new planting plan, that is a no mow zone where the ground cover plants are going to be, that's pushed out up to 15 feet.
Yes. Except like annually to
Sure, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, to maintain it, right.
please.
At some point, Mr. Chairman, I should address the fee waiver. It could be later or whatever, but just.
We'll do that later, but I,
Thank you, back.
fine, yeah.
Thank you, Rick.
All right, so now I will ask, yeah, so you don't have to leave. I don't know if you look like, just you can stay there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now the intervener, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Kevin Gumpler. I'm the attorney practicing here in Fairfield, and I'm here on behalf of the interveners of Greg Schultz and Andy Farrington, who are sitting here right behind me. Mr. Schultz is going to have, he wants to make a presentation. It's going to be fairly elaborate, and that will be in a few. But before he starts, I would like to well, there's a few things.
Okay, so you're summarizing, but then you're
No,
gonna.
I'm just going to point out a few things beforehand. You ready to follow this presentation?
Okay,
All right. First of all, clarify one thing that seemed to come up at the hearing last time. The Farringtons they have intervened, but they also are, they're not butters, but they own property 68.3 feet away from the boundary. So
they've
are-
intervened. It's okay.
But they're also the same as, they have the same rights as in a butter because they're that close.
Yep.
That was one. And this application keeps doing three things. Number one, it lets have a pool and a patio. Number two, it wants to have the sump pump redirected the discharge from the sump pump directed way down, much closer to my client's property into the pond. And three, it proposes to capture runoff from the roof. As Mr. Schultz will say, he doesn't object to the pool. They like pool. They have one themselves. They like pools and no objection to it. And that pool can be built according to town regulations without any retention whatsoever. Although Thane points out that probably there should be some retention because of the fact that it will be covered, hard covered. That would be fairly minor retention required. The sump pump is an issue because that's getting close to the pond. It discharged water fairly dirty and compared to rainwater. And so they object to that. And mostly they object to the capture of the runoff from the roof. The stated reason for this capturing of the water from the roof is, been stated many times, is to improve the backyard, make it more usable, which means make it drier. Ordinarily, that makes good sense. The problem with that is, this is what the backyard is. Backyard is a wetland. Can't be drying out a wetland.
Whose backyard, Mr. Cooper? I'm sorry.
This is your backyard. Here's your big backyard.
Gentlemen,
There you go.
I'm gonna, through the chair, I understand, just so,
Yes, right.
Yeah. yep. Same thing with the commissioner, so at least in this public hearing, just address me first, so we can do this orderly. It looks like there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on, so let's, always say, Mr. Chair, and then I'll,
We're generally civilized.
yes. That's just fun, nip it in the bud.
He's taught
He knows that we're not all angels here like Mr. Fame, so.
But, and about why we're doing this, the fact you would like one. What shows the green here is a portion of the backyard, which is almost the entire backyard. And it's all green because it's all wetland. And what is actually proposed here is to prevent water from running off into a wetland, which seems to be absolutely opposite of what the purpose of this commission is. Commission is not a, big backyard commission. This is the Wetlands Commission, and your duty is to protect the wetlands. The basic problem, the basic issue, and the main concern about the retention of the water is, well, back up. We don't dispute Mr. Flaherty's comments and calculations that there will be a reduction in the surface water runoff. That's not what we're concerned about. We're not concerned about there being too much water. We're concerned about there not being enough. I think that they will explain, Mr. Schultz will explain, that he's very concerned that the pool, the water coming into the pool, water coming into the pond equals the water coming out of the pond. He has done measurements. His indication is that the surface water that comes in basically feeds the pond, because the water that comes in is essentially equal to the water that comes out. Just measuring from the creek, the little runoff that comes in, measuring the runoff that goes out. That's actually makes some sense, despite I understand the idea of the concept that the groundwater will go into the pond. Here is the testimony from last hearing that the pond is lined with clay, and that's why it's a pond. It doesn't, the water does not sink below, it doesn't sink out, and it doesn't come in. The water that's going to be captured in the coltex will go into the ground, but may never make its way into the pond, because the pond has somewhat of a layer to prevent the water from either getting in or getting out. And so that's what I think I wanted to bring that particularly to your attention, Mr. Webb, to answer your question. It would appear, you would think that the water in the ground would come into the pond, so it all be the same. But in fact, if the water doesn't get into the pond, then we do that. And the water now, as you will demonstrate, basically is being fed by the water course that starts on the Wanat property, which is immediately adjacent to this property, runs through the Wanat boundary onto the Hayes and Piazza property, and then runs down onto the interveners property, which is where the pond. And present. Okay, he's Mr. Elson and I'm.
Gotcha. Okay, okay. Oh, all right. Before you go and let your client come, I mean, just so that your client, maybe you guys can talk, it's the agency receives information
Correct,
that we use to make determinations on our votes.
yes.
And if it's expert or otherwise scientific in some way, that's incredibly helpful. If it's, I don't know how to put it, if it's like internet based and there's an article about something, we will accept it, but there'll be less weight put towards that information. I don't know if
Yeah, yes, I certainly understand.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
okay,
Yes, indeed.
they're very good.
Yes.
So I'll happy to hear your client. Let me ask this, is your client an attorney as well?
No.
Or no?
Legal, right? Paralegal.
Okay, well, okay, that's fine. So we'll be happy to have your client come present, and the evidence that'll be presented, we'll take into consideration as best that we can.
Yeah. Right.
I will state now, though, if it veers off to not being germane to this application, I might just stop it.
Certainly, that's your prerogative. And
Okay.
it should be what you do.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Outstanding, thank you. I'm Craig Schultz, 100 Waterville Road. Pass these out because clearly we're going to need it. Handouts. Commissioners as well as council. They're all numbered. Thank you. Go through them as efficient as humanly possible. Are, sir, and you can have one. When we were last here, we were asked as interveners to provide some evidence for the positions that we took. I'm sorry, which we have gone and done at great expense to ourselves and our young family as well. So I have attempted to list out and give some pictures. Just to lay out the quick issues. And again, trying to be very efficient with the commissioner's time. The first issue is it's not only a wetland, it's a water course. So the studies that have been done to date, as I can testify, no one has shown up to study anything on our property or anybody else's property as to respect to a water course. Commissioner Bowen last time said it would be helpful to have a video. I have prepared many videos, several of which have been uploaded. I can play one tonight and share my screen if that would be helpful. It is absolutely clear that there is not only water that's standing at the back of 875 Mill Hill, but according to Mr. Kinney's report, that is in fact a water course. It's labeled a water course in his report. It is labeled as hydrologically connected through the town staff report. And in fact, when you look at the videos and the photos that were taken by the staff and by myself and uploaded, it is a running water course. So it's from 875 to 975 and into 100 Waterville Road, into the pond, and then through the pond and back out the other side. If the commissioner would like, I can play a short video to show some of this. Would you guys like to see the video? Or you can just agree that that is in fact a water course, which demonstrates not only all of the characteristics of a water course, but is defined by the applicant as a water course.
You can present any way you want to present, but
I would make a comment here. Mr. Schultz, is this the same video that you?
Everything has been uploaded.
Okay, you don't need to go there.
Right. It's a moving body of water as evidenced by the videos. Each one of these has obviously evidence behind each one of these points, which you can go into if there are questions. There's been insufficient study of the downstream impacts. As part of a water course, we have to take into consideration not only the parcel, which has been the study so far, but all the downstream impacts, just like riparian law, we have to make sure that we are not negatively impacting anything that is downstream of the site and the activities. There has been testimony from Craig, sorry, I forget your last name, Mr. Flaherty, sorry, Mr. Flaherty, that there will be no reduction in water flow. If you look at the readiness report, in fact, it says that there will be a reduction in both volume and flow of water in all and every rain events, which is part of your parcel, part of the pack. So in fact, there will be. I'm not quite sure how we jive. There won't be and there will be, but the data that's presented in the table for the readiness report is saying that there will be a reduction. You also asked us to hire an engineer, which we did at our own expense to assess the plan and what its impact on the water course and our pond might be. Joined by Wayne, who is online, his letter was submitted, and you can ask him questions. He can present his own perspective. His perspective, if I might just quickly paraphrase, is there's way more water being trapped than is necessary. In fact, in the applicant, it says that no water needs to be trapped at all, but that we are trapping in excess of the amount of water that needs to be trapped. Our perspective is we need the water. The amount of water flowing into the pond is about a faucet, 2,000, 3,000 gallons a day. Not a lot. It's a faucet, and it flows all day, every day. I've taken videos from December, January, February. In fact, if you want to see one, I took one tonight. It's still flowing. There's another question as to where the water comes from. If I'm facing north, the applicant's property is up northeast of the pond. On the northeast part is where of my property, the westerly portion of their property, water course flows into the pond quite clearly with a water course defined and scour and everything else. There's also a piece down here, which Sarah saw when she came out and visited, which looks like it might be a water course. In fact, when you look at the videos, the photos, there's no moving water at all. I have video from tonight during a rain event. There is no water flowing into this part of the pond. The only place the pond gets the water is from the northeasterly part of the pond, which comes directly from 875 Mill Hill Road into 975 and then into the pond. So our biggest concern, really our only concern, is that we get less flow from water into the pond. We've only had one algae bloom in the 5 years that we've lived there. One. If we have any less water, we're a little concerned. We're going to have algae blooms, oxygen deprivation, and a negative impact on both the fauna and the wildlife at the pond. So we don't believe that nobody clearly has done an actual underground water assessment as to where it flows. It's a whole different process for doing that. If you want to do that, you have to have 3 points. You have to measure the water flow actually under the ground, not using GIS maps, which have a disclaimer when you go into the maps that says, don't use this for that analysis. You have to click through that in order to access the maps in order to do the analysis. So those maps are not very accurate. We know they're not that accurate. So if we're assessing that there's not going to be any impact on bad data, that doesn't feel like we only have a water coming out of a faucet into the pond. That's not accurate enough.
Did yours, Wayne, did your engineer do that specific study?
Absolutely not. Okay. We actually got a quote for doing that. It does take several years to do that. And it would be several thousands of dollars to do that. And according to the town regulations, the applicant, and only the applicant, is supposed to provide all necessary information for the commission to make their decision. So if that is a piece of information that the commission feels like they would want to know.
Okay, so let's just stick to your presentation.
Yes, sir.
And now, would you like Wayne to discuss his findings?
Absolutely.
Okay, because
Wayne, would you mind joining?
Yes, no problem. Do you hear me?
yes, go ahead, Wayne. Please identify yourself. And
Okay, scare me.
Yep.
Sure. Wayne DeVanzo, Fairfield County Engineering for the intervener. Yes, I submitted a letter, which I'll just briefly summarize for you. I think that the question of the flow could be addressed, or the reduction in flow could be addressed with a fairly minor modification to the plan. of adding one 20-foot section of vertical pipe in between the culverts, the Cultex and the roof leaders, and to split the flow somewhat so that a small amount actually continues to flow to the pond or in the direction of the pond. And then the majority of it, the remainder, would still go to the Cultex. I did a HydroCAD analysis of it, and it works to where we're still, you would still be reducing the runoff for the 1 through 100-year storms, and yet you would be able to maintain a small 0.05 to 0.06 cubic foot per second flow towards the pond for all storms. It's a consistent flow for each of the 1 through 100-year storms. So we're just suggesting a relatively minor modification that I think would allay the concerns of the intervener. The other concerns were indeed the sump pump outflow. I would suggest that it go to a dedicated retention and be placed as far away from, and outflow as far away from the wetlands or the pond or the wetlands as could be done. The other item was there should be some detail, and I don't know if there's been any, but there should be some discussion of how the pool will be drained and the process for it, to ensure again that it's not directed, that the outflow is not directed in the direction of the wetlands or the pond. That ideally should go to the front of the property, and how that water containing chemicals and other things is going to be treated and not introduced towards the wetlands and the pond. That basically summarizes the suggestions, and happy to take any questions.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions to the applicant's really expert, not the applicant, I'm sorry, the interveners, Wayne, who is a Fairfield County engineer, and he's provided a letter, so at least he's got some.
Your client, Wayne, your client has asserted that we don't have to provide that no detention is necessary on the site for stormwater runoff. Do you agree with that?
Well, the town does require, for any development, a maintenance of stormwater runoff. That's true, yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions of the intervener's applicant? The intervener's expert.
Yeah, you regard the 975 property as a vernal pool?
I'm sorry, did you ask me, does it have a vernal pool?
Yeah, do you regard the property as predominantly a vernal pool?
That would be 875.
You mean 875?
No, that would be 975.
875 is the applicant.
Property to the, that's where we were on the sidewalk last. That's abutting where all the
That would be
controversy about the filling of the yard has come up.
Yes.
What number is
I'm
that?
sorry, which,
875.
It's 875.
875.
Yeah.
That's 975.
It's 975, that's what I said.
if I may, Mr. Victor,
Commissioner Hood was correct that it was 975.
My question,
875 is the applicant,
I got that.
975 is
I'm asking about 975.
You're asking
You regard
975.
that as a vernal pool?
the one on property.
You asking me?
Well, you're expert. Wayne, can you hear us?
Yes, yeah, I do. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on vernal pools. From what I do know about them, I believe you have to. I don't think it can be determined in the winter anyway. We're coming into the period where they sort of spring to life. But I don't know.
I got you. So, not an expert, Commissioner.
I do believe, Mr. Kinney, you said that presented.
Sir, you're going to ask me?
Sorry. I
Question?
believe Mr. Kinney in the last meeting said that presented as a vernal pool, but that it didn't have the characteristics that were as a productive vernal pool because of all the degradation of the land that has gone on.
And if Mr. Kinney has information in the record, Commissioner Hood didn't.
Yeah, that's not, the definition of vernal pool also is that it's a water course. I'm questioning that, I don't know how many questions I should be asking. That you're making the argument that all of the water that feeds the pond is coming exclusively from the applicant. When I'm there, I see a vernal pool and a water, which is by definition a water course in 975.
Right.
Well, then how could all the water be coming exclusively from the applicant's property? That's what you're presenting.
No. Wait. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, you're fine, counsel. So, yeah, Commissioner Hurd, you can ask the question, but the information is already provided. So. But you may answer if you'd like, because he has a question that on the, is the 975 property? 975. Does it supply any water to your pool in your visual as the homeowner?
I think for sure it does. I think what goes from 875 to 975 and then out to the pool. That's the way it is. That's correct.
It is from 875 to 975, which is hydrologically connected.
Very little to none is coming from 975 by itself.
It all comes through
I
975.
said by itself. We could
By
somehow
itself.
magically exclude the applicant.
Yeah, that has not been studied. Okay. By anyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. And is there any other technical information you'd like to give us to?
No, the only other issue is the fence, and just making sure that since it would be in the wetlands and it is being presented as a PVC fence, there's obvious potential risks of having plastic sitting in a freezing and thawing condition in the wetlands, including maintenance of animals, et cetera, et cetera. That would be something we would object to.
That's the information you provided.
Yes.
In paperwork that we
Yes.
have and it's uploaded.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
We've seen that, so I know what that is. Okay. Anything else, sir? that
If I could just make one point.
Wayne? Yes, please.
Yes, if I could just make one more point, if you're asking for technical, just one more thing I would say, just to sort of echo what was said earlier. I mean, it was mentioned that the ground, the water going into the Caltex would obviously percolate back into the groundwater, and it was mentioned and conceded that some of that will go to the deep aquifer. Not all of that is going to go back to the pond, and all of that previously was surface runoff, so it is being diverted. Just wanted to make that clear, that some of that water that was going to the pond would go to the aquifer, and also just the way the Caltex are aligned, and the way I believe the topography, I'm not 100% sure of this, but the way I believe the topography lays, I think some of it would also flow, in a direction away from the pond and not to it.
Is there any portion of the water that's captured in the Caltex, is it possible that some of that water can filter through into the pond?
Yeah, I'm sure some of it would, yeah.
So it's not correct to say that the clay lining of the pond is virtually impenetrable.
Well, that is a separate issue. If it's more, again, it hasn't been studied, so it's hard to say how much of that is coming from there. But that could be an impediment, and it's more likely that most of its source is surface runoff that it's receiving, and not so much through the ground. It's possible.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, now you please.
I just wanted to comment that Mr. Flaherty did comment on the fate of all the waters that the Caltex would, what portions he thought would go into the ground, and what portion he would, groundwater would recharge, and then one portion would go to the pond, and also surface water recharge.
Right, and that's in your pond water analysis dated January 26, 2024, and then the second one is a drainage summary report that was reissued January 26, 2024. Is that correct, sir?
Yes. Okay, so that's one other question, Mr. Flaherty. You said that you're decreasing the flows by about 0.5% across the board for most What's the general error in the model itself, though?
Look, it's possible to get the model or reality to 0.0, right? Trying to be that we think has a beneficial impact. In my assessment, overall water balance, I believe we are having a beneficial impact.
Any further questions?
Excuse me, could I make one more point? I'm sorry.
Is this Wayne?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, just from what I saw of the report, and I'm sure it's accurate, the actual groundwater recharge volume is very small. Yeah, I think I think it's 12 cubic feet. So it's not a great volume that really needs to be diverted to the groundwater to recharge it. And I think it's what's being proposed is well in excess of that. So it needn't necessarily be that large a volume.
Thank you, Wayne. Commissioner? No? Any other commissioners? Any questions of these interveners? Council for the Council, do you have any further things you want to say?
Pond works today, we don't want to.
That's it. Yeah, I think everybody wants that. So no further information as the intervener.
I'll have argument about.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Counsel for the applicant, if you'd like to respond to, in any way, to the intervener or the intervener's expert or comments made by counsel as well.
Before I have Mr. Flaherty just briefly review and respond to Mr. Schultz's and Mr. Devanzo's comments, the only thing I want to just mention is if you go back, there's no evidence with regard to the subsurface of this pond. There was a hearsay statement. A lady said that somebody owned it before the person who owns it now and then thought maybe it was clay. So there's no evidence here to begin with that there's a clay bottom here. At best, it's speculation and hearsay. But either way, it doesn't matter in the ultimate analysis, as Mr. Flaherty has laid it out. And I will ask Mr. Flaherty if he'd like to address any comments on our behalf in rebuttal to comments made by Mr. Schultz or Mr. Devanzo.
Sure, there's more happening than just. There's more happening than just this and just watershed. So if we're infiltrating groundwater here, I'm not suggesting that 100% of that recharge would go through a clay liner if it's a clay liner. What I said in my analysis is that it will find a natural sink, which is the expression that you would normally see any wetland or any water course. That's where the water is coming from. So there's a number of opportunities for water that's infiltrating here to express out at adjacent wetlands, on adjacent properties, or other bits of water courses. Not just we have no quarrel with the backyard as wetland and it's regulated. That's why we're here for this application, as described a number of times, and I don't need to go into it further, but I'm talking about the whole water balance. We have the question of the sump pump, the infiltration, groundwater, and the surface water. It's a water balance. It's not just one of those. As far as Mr. Benz's report, I think we heard him state this. I don't think he found, or at least he didn't say, that there was any fault in our design, any problem. He did not suggest that our design was going to create an adverse impact on a wetland, any wetland, or his clients. He did propose an alternate that was, instead of all infiltration, maybe about half detention and half infiltration, right? The difference there, infiltration has the open bottom, holds the water, soaks into the ground. Detention has the low flow outlet, everything that goes in eventually comes out, albeit metered. But then he suggests there should be additional infiltration for the groundwater sump pumps. So he's saying, get rid of some infiltration and then add some infiltration back. he is, I guess, suggesting he would prefer to have surface water for groundwater, again, requesting that groundwater be put elsewhere. But ultimately, if he was the designer here, he could propose his own thing. I'm not sure that his calculations, again, support your section 7.13, which requires 10-year storm. Their proposed conditions generate less runoff than 2-year storm under existing conditions.
So as it stands in this report by Mr. It possibly could not be a reasonably prudent alternative because based on our regulations, it might not comply.
Yeah, no calculations were provided with the report, so I can't say with certainty one way or the other, but I'm guessing just having done the calculations and satisfied engineering that I'm not sure that this alternative.
Okay.
And engineering was very particular. They sent us an email that says, we require that you have 38 cubic feet of storage for every 100 square feet of tributary area. Please make sure the infiltration system has that much storage. That's 404 cubic feet of infiltration, and we're providing 430 cubic feet. We are meeting requirements. I'll be done quickly. A comment was made about pool discharge. Pool discharge is regulated by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Any reasonable and qualified pool contractor knows the requirements of that general permit. There are mechanisms through that permit to discharge to ground, to discharge to surface waters. You just have to confirm pH is in the right place and residual chlorine is in the right place before you do so. That would be up to any reputable contractor servicing the pool. I don't suggest that you get into regulating that. If you want to go down that route. And he mentions that the requirement for groundwater recharge is very small, but there's also another requirement. That's the requirement for water quality volume renovation, and that is much larger. We're providing us for the water quality.
Thank you, sir.
The only thing I would add into that,
I'd just like to know.
could I just finish? You want to answer?
Just clarity. You mentioned that the town engineer said you had a certain amount of storage for a certain amount of runoff.
Right.
Did the town engineer tell you you had to capture the runoff on the?
As I stated in my drainage, the standard practice for engineering department doing applications such as this would require zero detention or infiltration, and I stated that in my own. But then we thought it was a good idea, since we were adding this hardscape in close proximity to wetland, to provide stormwater mitigation, because we think it's a good thing ultimately for all downstream wetlands, including ours. Since we were providing that storage, we needed to meet the standards of the engineer.
Thank you.
The only thing I was going to add in terms of Mr. DiManzo's comment, Rumper's question, I guess, is this record does also include thorough, rigorous review by your own town engineering department, and their conclusions are compliance with their requirements and the requirements of your regulations, not to mention your staff recommendation, which also I think is important consideration of this record. So
Thank you, Don. Council, that looks like it's a raised hand. It is. I will let Wayne say one more thing.
Okay, thank you. Just briefly, yes, I did do an analysis, and the suggestion that I made does still reduce the runoff for the 1 through 100-year storms, and again, following the same format that the report showed, it reduces. It also meets the 2 and 10-year requirement.
Okay.
So that I could provide that if necessary. And just to also clarify, the water quality volume is 80. Again, taking the report at face value, is 84 cubic feet, and it's what's being provided is well in excess of that as well. So again, no criticism of the plan, or as was said, no fault of the plan, but I'm just suggesting ways that it could be improved to, to allay the concerns of the intervener. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, so interveners are done. Council, you had responded to intervener. Now you're done, but do you guys want summaries or?
I'd like to have the final word as
Yeah. We'll hold off until I do everybody else.
yes.
So we both get reserved, but they'll be the final. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anybody here in person that would like to speak in support of this application, please come up and your name. Okay. Anybody here online, anybody online that would like to speak in support of this application, you can, I guess, raise your hand or no. Okay. Anybody here in person that'd like to speak in opposition to this application? You can come up. Anybody online that would like to speak in opposition of this application? No. Okay, we're back to.
Summarize.
What?
No.
General question. Council, hold on for a minute, Commissioner.
I could throw it out to anybody, but when I look at this property, I don't see any budding neighbor as having a green ribbon or a riparian buffer. So my question is, would any of you consider the new plan, which has a substantial planting plan at 20 feet? I look at that as a riparian buffer in its own strange way, because I look at that as it's going to act as biofiltration. It's going to treat water. We know the benefits of that intervention, especially if I consider salt coming down from the street, if I consider fertilizing of lawns and all those things that are going to go into the pond, which I don't want. So I just would like to know if anybody considers that. I look at that as a riparian buffer. Because I don't see anybody else around there as undertaking the process to create one.
Right.
It's just its lawns going into a pond.
So that would be more of a comment that Commissioner would, as opposed to anything else. I don't think any particular response is needed for that here, but as part of this applicant is doing it, so at least they are doing what you would like. I guess.
I would just like to, I would like to get some clarity on something. So, for your client is not opposed to the pool, but would rather see the runoff from the stormwater runoff through part detention, part infiltration, or no infiltration at all. What would be the best outcome for your client? What is it that you're looking for?
Best outcome for my clients, allow them to build a pool. Try whatever, add whatever detention you think is necessary for the pool itself, which the town may say, engineer may say is zero. Mr. Fain may say you need some, which seems likely. And we would like then no capture of any of the other runoff. Let it just continue to surface down the way it does now, no other change. And love it if we enhance the existing wetland and made it back to be more of a functional wetland, but that would provide some filtering, helping out. But we don't want any detention of water.
You realize that in just about every application that comes in front of us, we encourage stormwater runoff to go through a detention system, right? That is
Detention, or you can put it through a wetland and it will also do the filtering. If you, but at any time, you put a rain garden in, there's a number of ways to handle that.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner
Yeah, I
Fain.
just wanted to point out to come up there that my desires aren't relevant here. I'm here to enforce the regulations of the town and in terms of drainage and town wetlands and watercourse regulations. My desires are secondary or not relevant.
Well, I was simply commenting on your comment that the town says no need for detention because it's all going to go in the pool. And it was pointed out by one of your members that way, then in fact, many of the pools have covers on them, so maybe you should have some.
No, that was the different. I think you're
If I am, then I'm
misquoting me. I didn't say you didn't need any detention. I said that, and even in Fairfield, even a pool, even though that it's open and they still require you to do detention also. But if you do have a cover on it, then that auto cover or cover in the wintertime, then that function of the pool absorbing the water is no longer happening.
So I want to argue with a bit. I believe that
In any event,
the email from the engineer, town engineer, was that less than 200 square feet of hard surface around the pool, open pool, no detention required. I think that's the way I read it. Perhaps I read it wrong.
thank you. Commissioner Go. I'm sorry.
No more.
Yeah. You got anything else? Yeah. Before I go around.
Yeah, okay. A couple. My clients are interveners. Intervening is difficult from your standpoint because the statute itself basically is double talk. It talks about reasonably likely to cause unreasonable harm. It's what when you're done with it. Then we get into the question of cost. It gets worse because the question is who has a burden of proof. Fallon will point out that the intervener supposedly has the burden of proof. Probably true in most things, but as a practical matter before the Conservation Commission, the Wetlands matter, since we're talking environmental, the intervener has taken on the burden of proving that there would be harm to the environment. He may or may not have proved. However, even if he has not proven that, that does not remove the burden from the applicant in the first place to show that his application does in fact comply with the zoning regulations, which requires no harm to the environment. So that I am quoting, I don't mean to give Mr. Fallon indigestion, but I am quoting from the case of Finley versus Inland Wetlands Commission, which is in 2008. And it says the court has recognized that the applicant has the burden of proving compliance with statutory requirements for a wetlands permit. The evidentiary burden imposed on the applicant to demonstrate that its proposal meets the regulatory requirements will ordinarily require an affirmative presentation to that effect. So the court, so in effect, the burden actually, although it looks like the burden, you think that the burden is on the intervener to show that there is a harm. In fact, the burden is on the applicant, as it is in any application, to show that there is no harm. So that's his burden to me. Again, point out that we're trying to do three things here, somehow trying to shoehorn a drying out of the wetlands, basing it because they want to put in a pool. Let's put in a pool. But don't capture the runoff. There's no need to do that. There's no construction of the house being built here. There's no need that you have to capture this. Right now, as far as my clients are concerned, the pool operates properly. The pond operates properly. It's a beautiful pond. They're very, very fond of it. They have everyone, there's people on both sides like it. People downstream are pleased with it. And we're going out of our way, I think, here to possibly interfere with that. And why interfere with that? What purpose? What's the reason? The reason to do that is to dry out the wetlands. So you've got a double whammy here. You've got number one, you've got a wetland that's going to get less water into it. And number two, you've got a possible harm downstream to the pond by interfering with the water that goes into it now. I think that the doctors would say, first, do no harm. So if you want to grant the pool, but please, no need for this excessive capturing of the water off the garage, off the roof of the house. That is summation, that's where we're at.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Stumper. Thank you, members of the commission, for your time, your attention. I'll be brief. You have two separate legal matters in front of you. And Mr. Gumper may perceive the 2019 to be double talk, but it is the law. Basically, they filed an intervention. So in an intervention, what has to be proved by the intervener is that there are activities that are reasonably likely to unreasonably adversely affect the public trust in the air, water, or other natural resources of the state. So on the intervention, when you will take a separate vote on the intervention, the question for you is it reasonable, based upon the evidence submitted by the intervener, that the proposal will have such an unreasonable resolution, impairment, or destruction of resources? The verified pleading also, according to the Nazardo case, says that there has to be very specific facts in the intervention that set forth the basis for this claim of specific environmental harm. And then there has to be proof, actual evidence, not speculation or assumptions that they have in fact sustained those allegations in terms of the verified complaint. They actually, the legislature a few years ago amended 22A19A to add a provision which requires that a verified pleading contains specific factual allegations identifying the specific alleged impairment, etc., and then that evidence be supplied that meets that burden. So under that standard, the interveners have not respectfully met their burden, and the intervention should be denied. Now, Mr. Gumper is right. The second thing that we have to talk about is the application. And the applicant has the burden on proving that the regulations that you promulgate under the statute involving inland wetlands and watercourse protection have been complied with. I would suggest to you that we have more than met that burden. We provided a wetlands assessment, we provided a drainage report, we provided a subsequent watershed study, and the design itself confirms that we will and have complied with your regulations, and what we propose will not have any adverse impact associated with our proposed activities on any wetlands or watercourses. Indeed, in this particular instance, we propose mitigation in terms of stormwater quality improvements, stormwater management improvements, and a robust buffer and planting plan that go above and beyond ensuring compliance with that. So there's not going to be any adverse impacts. There's no evidence here when you weigh Mr. Flanagan's testimony, the testimony of Mr. Devanzo, the input from your own engineering department, your staff. There's no evidence that would support a finding of any adverse downstream impacts associated with what we want to do, or any adverse offsite impacts. End of the day, we have worked very, very hard, as we should, to comply with your regulations. Come up with a plan that will allow this young family to have a swimming pool and a usable backyard, and at the same time address in a positive way things that have always been priorities for this commission in terms of matters pertaining to water quality and water containment and stormwater management that should be encouraged in every single application, as you do, that comes before you. So on behalf of my colleagues, Bill and Craig, most importantly on behalf of the Hudsons, we do appreciate your attention to this application. We hope you will find it worthy of your approval. And I think it will set, going forward, a very good standard of rigorous compliance with your regulations when it comes to matters pertaining to such accessory structures like this. And I thank you and have nothing else other than when you want to give me 5 minutes, I'll give you my thoughts on the fee waiver, and then we'll leave you to your deliberations.
Okay. We got that now.
But I don't think it's a public hearing issue. I think you need to close the public hearing and then that's just another type of vote.
I'll make a motion then to close the public hearing.
Okay, Commissioner Finn has made a motion to close, and Commissioner Fallon has seconded. All in favor to close the public hearing? Yeah, all around for closing the public hearing. Again,
Thank you.
let's,
There's their recommendations.
let's see, we have the applicant letter, request for clean waiver regard.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you want me to?
We're even taking it up for a second. We're discuss the fee waiver?
I think. Getting most of it. That we. Move to clear.
I should start. Yeah. You'll start and then we.
Make your decision.
Yeah,
We'll make a decision.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But no, seriously, let me just give you the background on why we think the fee waiver is very reasonable here. In May of 2022, the Hudson's filed IWPA 22-169, seeking approval to install drainage, surface water management, limited filling in a wetlands, mitigation, and of course, a swimming pool. At the time that application was filed in May of 2022, they paid an application fee of $3,270. Subsequently, they paid an additional $460 on September 15 in anticipation of the public hearing, which was scheduled. So the total application fees that were paid by the Hudsons with regard to the then pending IWPA 22-169 was $6,730. On October 22, a staff review and recommendation for approval was submitted to the commission. So they had gotten to that point in the proceeding. I was not involved. The recommendation was reaffirmed by the conservation director in a memorandum dated September 22, 2022. At that time, thereafter, on October 3rd, a verified petition to intervene was filed 2 days before the then scheduled public hearing. As I understand it, again, because I think it's consistent with the way they've approached this entire situation, as I elaborated on a few minutes ago, in an effort to constructively address and respond to the concerns that were raised at the time by the neighbor 2 days before the public hearing, Mr. and Mrs. Hudson, through counsel on October 5, before the commencement of the public hearing, withdrew the application. Even though they had already paid the public hearing fee of $3,460. So at the end of the day, at that time, as I understand it again, and that's not as I understand it, I actually reviewed this part of the record, the matter, as they were withdrawing, the matter of a future fee waiver discussed under the circumstances. And there was some discussion and positive indication, although no decision made, that a request should be made if a new application were filed, and it would be considered carefully by the commission. And that's what we're asking you to do today. The new application that we have filed after concerns that were raised by the abutting neighbor is, as you know, and we hope you'll agree, far less intensive with regard to the disturbance and filling compared to the original application. So what it comes down to is this family has paid $6,730, which contemplated a public hearing that never occurred. And under the circumstances, it would seem to us to be hopefully not reasonable in your eye that they would now be forced to pay an additional $8,000 in fees under the new fee schedule, in light of the fact that the substantial fees previously paid, we hope you'll agree, have provided and will provide appropriate reimbursement with regard to the costs associated with the review of the proposal, in that, a full staff review, even on the original application, was undertaken and a positive recommendation was made. So we ask for your equitable consideration of the fee waiver. Again, the numbers are they paid almost $7,000 to date. If there is no fee waiver here, the new fee schedule would impose another $8,000 obligation. So their out of pocket will be something in the neighborhood of $15,000. You need to make a judgment. Obviously, the reason you have fees is to ensure that staff time and other considerations are properly compensated for. We fully appreciate that. We agree with that. We just hope you might consider that the $7,000 that's paid, even including a public hearing fee of almost half that amount, and then the public hearing never happened, would justify consideration of the fee. So we thank you for that consideration.
Thank you, Council.
Ask staff to just explain the $8,000 fee.
Yeah,
We don't have the breakdown right in front of us, but we're trying.
rough calculations would indicate that the IWP filing would start at $5,000, roughly $250 for landscaping, $900 for the pool, $500 fee for the drainage, $400 fee for the patio, and another $500 for public hearing. It is roughly, as Attorney Fallon said, close to.
When we might be missing. When you want it? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
You got one too.
You walk around normally?
Oh, a little confused. It's $900 for swimming pool. So what's the other one? What's the $5,000 fee for?
For any inland wetland full permit. 5,000. Stormwater detention or drainage is 500. Landscaping is 200.
That's not all included in
Nope. Patio.
the Chinese menu.
Patio is 400. It's 400. Swimming pool is 900. So that's probably over 8,000.
Yep. And the amount that was paid was somewhere in the neighborhood of thousands.
I think it's on the back. It's the whole page. Yeah. Yes. So $1,730.
$730. I don't think we should, especially since they've done, I think I've heard the concerns we had with the previous. The raw resources to do so. The only question I have is if we should just, bring it up to the fee for $1,000 and then waive the rest. That would be the only. Yeah, I would. I think what I would say and suggest is that we adopt the current regulation fee of whatever staff.
1,009.
And then we give a credit for the previous.
6,007. Be a balance of $1,180. That is exactly what I was thinking.
Would you like to second that motion?
This calculation is incorrect. Doesn't include the public hearing for 500. So
Yeah,
it is off.
So I don't think it really matters. The way the motion came up was whatever if they had presented it today, I want to be clear, commissioners, because
Yes.
there's a motion on the floor. I want to be clear what it's about. Whatever today's fee would be, give them a credit of what they've paid for. Right. Okay, so that's the motion. Any, okay, all in favor? Aye. You're gonna oppose it? Okay, so. Commissioner Hood. Okay. Oh, Commissioner Baum.
Mr. Chairman, before you go on to your next matter, any practical possibility that you're going to decide the public hearing matters tonight, or can everybody go home that's kind of interested? Looks like you got a bunch of those.
We still have some stuff to go through, but we're not gonna.
Not going to bind yourself, huh?
Okay. We,
Stuff that's
That's
here.
violations.
yeah,
These are.
well, commissioners, we do have 30, but if you want to go through these tonight and vote, I'm happy to do that. You guys are ready? You're
Everywhere you do.
well, you're not even in on this one though, this last one. So, yeah. So. Commissioner Luxinger, are you okay if you want to stay on a few extra minutes? I know we don't want to. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I think
Practically in bed.
so I think the indication will be we'll probably vote tonight. Okay, so, and I will do my best to speed through. The rest are just receipts and a couple of dated items for staff. Okay. Before I move on, council said that we have to vote on the petition. Didn't we vote to agree to grant them in, or are we doing it again? I want to. For the intervenor. I thought we already, that's how we're allowed to speak.
Yeah, that's what.
So they're here, they presented the information. Now it's just.
Didn't we do that last time?
Yeah. Like the council, and I'm not council, so but what the
Yeah.
applicant's council says that we need to vote whether the intervener has demonstrated.
Oh, yeah, sure, okay, that's different, but we've allowed, that's why they're here, we allowed to be in, okay, that's fine. That clarifies that. Roman numeral 5, applications for receipt, number 1, WP-24-0005, Land Tech, 845 North Cherry, map 228, parcel 16, 5-lot residential subdivision with associated infrastructure within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision is May 10th, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is May 1st, 2024. The staff recommends scheduling public hearing for April 6th, 2024 or May 1st, 2024. Before I move on, for commissioners' purposes, there are multiple, it's odd, but there's multiple applications for multiple properties that are on the same road. So there's Millville Terrace, they're not associated. So they're all separate, they don't go together, even though they think on paper, oh, that they're just abutting property or something. They are not. Okay, all right. So I don't mind April 6th on that one. Okay. Number 2. WP-23-0161, ATL Builders LLC, 2800 Reading Road, map 167, parcel 15A. Remove deposition of fill and restore ground disturbance and this is where I had a question for staff, and intermittent.
Water course.
Okay, there we go. Well, maybe we can make a note to correct that for the next, when we vote on the minutes. Within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision is May 10th, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is May 1st, 2024. This is when the applicant requests a fee waiver, and the staff recommends tabling pending legal notice and departmental review. I think that would be fine. Table that.
So, is this a response to a violation? We would take up the fee waiver at.
Yeah. All of it gets tabled. So the fee applicant, the fee waiver, and we have a public hearing when we had a public hearing. Number 3, WP-24-0004, David Scott Parker Architects, 253 Reading Road, map 225, parcel 37, demolition of existing dwelling and construction of a new dwelling within driveway, barn and associated site work within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision is May 10, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is May 1st, 2024. Staff recommends scheduling public hearing for for April 6, 2024, or May 1st, 2024. I think that's fine for April 6th, Tim, unless there's a reason not to do that.
This works.
Okay, then, -24-0014, William Penny Associates, 430 and 2 Stilson Road, 76 parcels, 345 and 344. Demolish existing dwelling at 430 Stilson Road and construct 19 four-story single-family townhouse buildings grouped in 4 buildings, associated site work within regulated area. Last day for public hearing and decision is May 10, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is May 1st, 2024. Staff recommends public hearing for April 6th or May 1st, 2024. Before we do anything with that, is there any indication that there'll be any further? All right, so I will just pause for a second. The agenda itself has a date of April 6, 2024. That is a typo. The actual date is April 3rd, 2024. So for any public hearings that were set for April that we just mentioned, April 6, 2024, they will actually be on April 3rd, 2024. The minutes at the next meeting, the agenda will be corrected. So, but for purposes of anybody who's going to zoom in on this, whatever, it's April 3rd, 2024. Getting back to number 4, under Roman numeral 5, a 19-unit, 4-story town group of 4 buildings. That seems to be a larger issue. I don't want it to be. Is there any indication that May will have more public hearings? Do we know of anybody coming? We're not officially submitting anything, but giving you indication that something might come in.
I think may more come in, but I do know that this applicant was, I don't want to say in a hurry, but
In a hurry.
Anxious to get this before the 8th.
All right. Everybody's in a hurry. But, okay.
It's going to be a big application.
Then this will be because we have one more in the back there.
That's going to be a big application.
So we can put this for April 3rd, but then all others will probably be on May 1st if they come in for between now and the next meeting, because then it's going to be too much, I would think, especially with a 19-unit, 4-story single-family townhouse. No.
It was also the front page of the Connecticut Post.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we do that.
You always said it's.
All right, so commissioners, are you requesting that we move 1 and 2 to May 1st and put item number 4 on April 3rd? We can do, I'm sorry, not 1 and 2, 1 and 3 to May 1st. Item number 4, April 3rd.
Which one would we see first?
They're in the order.
You're on this, yeah.
In the order that we received. That's fair way to do it.
But that's kind of what we've done so far, because 1 and 3 are for April 3rd.
Right.
And then,
Then the Stilson Road we met.
and then we have one more in the back.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then that's where I was going with it. So
1, 3, 4, 5.
1 and 3, April 3rd. 4, which is the one I just read for the Stilson Road, 430 and 452 Stilson Road, map 76, parcel 345 and 344. That'll be for May 1st.
On the same night, as opposed to each other, we get the same audience.
We're gonna get the same people.
Yeah. All right, so then that's another good way to put it. Yes, and then number 5 is WP-24-0013, William Penny Associates, 222 Stilson Road, map 76, parcel 226, demolish existing dwelling and garage and construct three-story apartment building with associated site work within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing decision is May 10, 2024. Last regular meeting prior is May 1st, 2024. Staff recommends public hearing. So for the May 1st, that one. Okay. Roman numeral 6, bills and bond releases. Number 1, IWP 2015-16-08 Oak Lawn Cemetery Association, 1530 Bronson Road, bridge abutments and wing wall repair within regular area. Request of Matthew Frankowski, E for final bond release of $5,000. Staff recommend final bond release of $5,000 bond. If anything is all good, did they do what they're supposed to do, all those things?
Yeah, everything's been confirmed. I actually drove through there the other day, so looks good.
All right. Any commissioners have any questions or any motion to?
Make a motion to release the bond.
Okay, Commissioner Alessi made a motion to release the bond. Anybody second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Fain seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's all around. Number 2, IWP 2006-11 DuPont Estate Marital Trust, Merwin's Lane. Stream channel restoration and bridge construction within a regulated area. Request of Wilmington Trust for final bond release of $18,556.25. The staff recommends the final bond release of the $18,556.25. That done?
That project was never started, and the permit has since expired, so they had contacted and asked for their bond back, so no work was ever.
Sure. Anybody?
With that
Commissioner
Make it-
Bowen?
that permit number is almost 20 years old.
Yeah.
Just to put it in context.
Wow. It took them that long to realize that they don't, okay. Very good. So
Yes, they
Commissioner
had
Bowen made,
$32,000.
anybody second? Commissioner Alessi second, all in favor to release? Aye.
Who made the motion?
Commissioner Bowen?
Yeah.
And Commissioner Alessi second. Okay. Roman 7, legal enforcement actions. Number 1, Christon Family LLC, 79 South Benson Road, map 141, lot 17. Deposition of material and regulated activities within a regulated area without a permit. Notice of violation issued February 1st, 2024, and property owner responded promptly via phone and in writing. The response was attached. I read that. I'm sure the commissioners did as well. Anything further, Tim, that they got on it? Really?
No, I appreciate, the department appreciates the cooperation and promptness from the violator. They're going to address it and also put in some wildlife-friendly fencing to prevent it from happening. It's this location's adjacent to Post Road, kind of behind Planet Pizza. There's a small pond walking through that. The parking lot is loaded with garbage that's making its way to the water course. So they will be cleaning that out on a biannual basis and installing a low permeable wildlife fence around that portion of the pond.
Number 2, Nardi, 120 Grace Street, map 79, lot 517. Deposition of material and regulated activities within a regulated area, including Gypsy Springs open space without a permit. Notice of violation attached and issued February 9th, 2024, and has gone unresponsive to date. Number 2, Tim?
Similar to, I guess, contrary to the response by the violators above, this has gone unresponsive. There's it's town open space that they're using it for their own. So I'll have to go out there within the 30 days time frame and see if anything's been addressed, but I'm sure it has.
All right, see what it is, and then if it's not, at this point, it's a notice of violation, then do what you have to do on the next step. There's no response, I would say. Okay. Number 3 is continued Offenberg 1865 Sturgis Highway, map 253, lot 33. Regulated activities within the regulated area without permit. Notice of violation issued November 29, 2023, and has gone unresponsive to date. The third returned attempt from USPS.
All right, 3 different addresses, one provided by the town of Westport, who owns the other half of violator's property. Everything comes back, is returned by, return receipt comes back, the original envelope comes back. I'm not sure anyone either out of state for time, I don't know. But again, 3 different addresses, nothing happens.
They get the tax bill sent.
I sent that to that address first. Got 2 Westport addresses. And I think the first one,
Would you be able to talk to the, well, it's public record, just to see if the taxes are paid or not? So if
yeah,
the
I can get that
taxes-
from the tax collector.
Taxes are paid.
Yeah, they're going to the address. Yeah. So I'm gonna keep trying. I'll reach back out to Westport to see if they have a second address, but.
All right. I think from, end of November, so maybe we'll mark this to do something further, next meeting.
And yeah.
Number 4, continued Black Rock Realty and Development LLC, 1876 Black Rock Turnpike, map 76 lot 172. Regulated activities within a regulated area without a permit. Notice of violation issued April 10, 2023. Corrective action order issued September 2nd, 2023. Previous show cause hearing in late of 2023 was unattended. The violation, however, has been resolved, and the letter of resolution is attached. Good job, Tip.
Got there recently, the garbage from town property, town open space and with inland wetlands has been removed. Stone has been placed under the fence to prevent landscapers blowing garbage behind the granola bar.
Yeah.
On said property. So I sent them a letter of resolution.
Excellent. Number 5, continued Blanco, 144 Bennett Street, map 26, lot 166. Significant activities without a permit, including deposition material within regulated area, waterworks, and disturbance of the natural and indigenous character of the land without sediment erosion controls. Currently working with town attorney and property owner to submit an inland wetlands permit per the court order. Notice, recent motion for extension request is filed to the court. I think that would be informational. I think the court needs to rule.
Well, just as kind of an offside thing.
Yeah.
She called me and was trying to retain my firm work, and I explained to her that, I couldn't. I told her a few names of people. I didn't recommend them because I'm like, oh, no, recommend. But she was very nice, and she was trying. She gave me the reason why she was unresponsive, and I won't mention that here, but I think she wants to resolve it.
She does. She was in my office Monday morning. We sat down, walked through. Walk through everything. She is moving forward and retaining professionals. So
That's Well, there's a court order, so let that work out with the town, and if she brings anything in front of us, then we'll take it, and help as much as we can.
currently on the books for the court, April 12th at 10 a.m. is the current hearing. I spoke with town council today. If any action happens before that, he requests that I let him know what's happened, and that may absolve the court, need to appear in court.
Okay, very good. Which I think we should just continue it and give them time to do what they do. That'll be fun. Number 6, continued Norwood, 120 Wakeman Lane, map 246, lot 5C. Significant activities, deposition of material, wetland diversion, etc., without a permit. Currently working with town attorney, submit an inland wetlands permit. Can you give us a little more information about this?
Spoke with town attorney, last week. We're scheduled to meet, with updates, this Friday afternoon. But, they have delayed, under council's recommendation, to, I believe it was April. I was looking for the date, April or May.
I think we should pursue this aggressively. This has been losing in the fall for over a year. And I think we should, I wanted to like two things, that we, pursue it aggressively with the town attorney and go to court. And also I'd like to get a search warrant order to get you on the property, see what's been done in the past year. We're going on a long time.
I agree with that.
His recommendation was to wait.
Saw that, but you know,
I didn't.
Well, how about,
It reiterated the fact that this has been going on too long. I wanted to be.
let's, so
What's the benefit to them?
Maybe could be a situation here, we can do a special meeting, even remote, if we can't make it, and have the town council come and talk to us. Because we want to do something, and there's a new town council, they might want to go a different approach, but we want to talk to him and see why he doesn't want to move forward.
Well, we could also have town attorney come to our meeting, just go private executive session into it.
Yeah, but I don't want to wait till next month.
Oh, sure.
So I want, why? Why do I have to wait? It's been going on forever.
we remanded this to an attorney.
But I thought the attorney went to court on this.
No, they never,
It was in the process, and
they were
then,
going, and then they switched town attorneys.
Let's see if he's available the night we meet for conservation. And
wonderful,
have a
and
double
we can have
meeting.
a double meeting, yes. That's what I'd like, I hope you guys are on board with that.
We want a special meeting, just exec.
Yep, just executive to talk. Because it still would have to be an inland wetlands agency meeting, right? We can have a special an executive session in conservation, it's not.
No,
Yeah, separate
we
meeting.
even have an executive meeting on this?
Yes, yeah, I guess, litigation.
Why don't we also bring in the last attorney that was handling this as well too?
Go on.
And I don't know.
Sure, they could hire him, why not? Just the town pays it for their time.
It's-
The attorney was before us, was handling this, and report on this already, no?
No, not yet.
No. I thought she did.
They started
They had filed, but
they filed, they never
Did they
got
come
the court.
before us?
That was the
We had
other
her
one.
here, she talked about it.
yeah, she did.
She did, yeah, Kathy Creed was here, and she presented it to us, and she was handling the case.
I didn't think they filed.
Listen, she already started this, and now we're gonna start the clock again. Bring her in with the new town attorney, just because it was a new administration. They already started working on it. Let them work together on it, and let's just keep moving forward. Why do we have to start out the process all over again? We already started it last year.
Not sure.
Turned everything over to the new firm.
Okay.
Yes. Not sure we can do that. I
I
think,
think that's what they basically,
so let's have them come in and talk to us about it.
Okay.
And we'll ask that question. Why can't you reallocate it back to them? Because they already started it.
Sorry,
Well,
it's council.
I would just note that we haven't got any,
We don't.
we
Yeah, they do.
got the Bennett thing done in a month. And this has been 6 months, so I'd rather switch attorneys personally. I don't want results.
I just wanna get it started.
Yeah.
Can you also ask them about I guess we could ask them about getting the search report.
It's not a. I just want to be.
No, you have to have a search warrant to.
I
That's
know.
the law.
Let's leave it up to the town council to advise us on search warrants and things of that nature.
So I'll schedule that for.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on to Roman numeral 8, staff report. Number 1, reports from the Conservation Department. A CWC permanent application received 1 as of February 23, 2024. B, notice of violations issued 2. C, bonds released 5. That's as of February 7, 2024. Schedule sidewalks for optional Sundays, March 10, 17, 24, or 31.
31.
What's that?
31 is Easter.
Oh, okay, then that's no good. Yeah. 17, I'm not going to be here, but that doesn't matter. 10 or 24, but 17 if it works for me.
I miss daylight saving. Think my sleep.
But maybe this will be our last Sunday.
Let's, yeah, that'd be nice, right? Yeah. March 24th? March 24th?
Yeah.
Okay, same thing, was that 8? Yeah.
Yeah. Right, and just to confirm, this would be for the applications with public hearings in April. That would be
Yes, April.
845 Mill Hill Terrace and 253 Reading Road.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, right, because then want it fresh, unless you guys, no, just those two, 1 and 3,
And then 4 and
because
5
the others are on the same
on
road.
this, right?
We can do
Be
that,
all the same people.
yeah, do that sometime in April.
You, does anyone, should I add 2800 Reading to that? But not a public hearing, it's still the application related to the violation. Number 2.
Number 2?
Number 2 and.
Oh, 2800 right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Ready. Oh, ready. Okay. 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you.
That's 1, 2, and 3 in April.
Yeah, the next.
4 and 5.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yeah. I know. Zoom in.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, so now it's Roman numeral 9, other. They need to create a permit application for water extraction in a regulated area. Tim, I'll let you talk about that because of the history there.
So as you know, we had several incidents with tree services extracting water from town open space and town water course resources in Binger Woods this past summer. We came before Inland Wetlands and Conservation. Equally, was probably last week, I had 2 calls in the same day from 2 different contractors asking where could they find the permit to pump out water. So I think with that demand, I've since created a permit from scratch. I was given an example from the town of Westport who has one in place, so I cherry picked some of that information. I've drafted it. I could regulate that, but it's just I haven't got that. Just for tracking purposes, but just to point out, since it is a direct impact to wetlands and water courses, I think need this agency's authority to promulgate and issue and enforce an application that's not your standard activity within the wetland and water course, unless the agency feels that they should, those applications should also come before you guys.
That's the birds.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary.
What are we gonna charge him for the water?
That's Ted. Yeah, well, we'll have to come up with a fee, but
There is a miscellaneous fee on the fee schedule now for 500.
No, what do I do?
500 per year, and the permit application would allow for 3 trucks, and it requires, information of driver's licenses, state license for applicators, because they're typically using the water for free, selling to a client for either fertilizing or spraying chemical, herbicides or pesticides on trees. So that information will be contained on the application. It's about 3.5 pages long.
how about the draw amount?
Yep, it has I created a space for frequency, extraction period on the calendar, estimated gallons per extraction, obviously all the location information, truck truck information, so.
It's include language about, what method they're using for extraction, making sure that that equipment is clean and.
I do have some of those questions on there. So they're check valves, backflow preventers. Is the equipment, typically going to cross-contaminate the resource that they're using? Westport actually has, before they issue it, they have an inspection of the equipment, which
That's what I was gonna ask. Is that
could be
something?
done. I don't know how they're qualified or us qualified to do it, but where does that happen? When?
I know.
It is a lot. I don't know how much it would be used, and it's a start.
Let's
as far as
start
tracking, but
and see how it goes, and then we revisit it next year and see if it's.
it's brand new.
Do you know anything about Westport and those contractors using fire hydrants? Having permits to use hydrants?
That I don't know.
So I don't know if you remember, but my arborist says that he gets a permit from the town of Westport to use hydrant water.
Yeah, they have a hydrant down by the river there, by
Yeah.
the aquarium thing. I know
Right.
that they use that.
Yeah, that-
Let them tie into one hydrant, you think?
Well, I mean, I think that's a better option than extracting from the water course.
I don't know if that's in our.
I was gonna say, but a water hydrant might be a fire department issue.
Right,
I don't know
right.
if that's even us.
I'm just saying it would alleviate us from having to worry about cross contamination and extraction from a water course.
And then we would just have to
It would
essentially
become a non-issue for us.
banning it altogether.
Yeah.
Banning the permit or preventing
Well,
the activity.
they're gonna do it.
They're going to do it. They're doing it now.
Well,
Drive over a bridge, say, oh, there's fire, throw
Yeah.
their hose in.
Also, Westport has designated locations. They pointed out, these are your options if you're gonna get a permit from us to extract the water.
When they're gonna get it.
some control, yeah.
Well, just something to think about.
Something to think about. Why don't you put it on for the next meeting? And we'll continue to think about it.
Circulate the application in the meantime.
Yeah, let's look at the.
And maybe we find out who is the person or the entity that controls the fire hydrants. Is it only the fire department or,
I think it's,
Aquarium.
right?
is it aquarium? I thought it was, okay.
Yeah, Aquarium manages the hydrants.
They own the water.
When they,
But the water, isn't any water that flows underneath the water course that we might regulate?
But I think aquarium,
also the town of Westport has an ordinance related to tree spraying where that facilitates conservation department there to.
So they have some
Right.
pre-existing stuff that we don't have. Okay.
I mean, to me, this is a perceived adverse impact to what one was heard.
I mean, it allows us to write it however we want,
Yeah.
right?
All right. But
I would just need to be able to do that approval from the agency.
Yeah.
Delegating their agent to, work with a permit that's not allowed by regulation. Authorizations.
So we'll continue to think about it,
Yeah.
talk about it, but I'm not going to do anything with it tonight. Yeah. B is CGA, Connecticut General Assembly House Bill 52, 18 informational.
Just pointing that out, House bill from the state has, I attached it here, happy to read it, related to riparian buffers.
Oh.
So the state's looking into.
Emergency conservation.
Yeah, it's entitled An Act Concerning the Establishment of Riparian Buffers and Revision of Certain Inland Wetland Provisions. But it's not a tough read. Wanted to get trained. Agency.
Yeah, Tim?
We get trained. The second half of it is about training for commissioners.
Training, that's good. And the last, C, and other, is department's budget in process.
So you got funding for another staff.
Yeah.
Currently, the Board of Selectmen is in support of my request for adding another staff member. I think the department's understaffed and I guess I can use the word desperate need of another set of hands. So far, before I go to Board of Finance and RTM, I'll have another staff selectman, to formalize it at some point in the process.
Great.
Good job so far.
Good. All right. Now we're going back to segment 4. This is the public hearing. Number 1, continue WP-23-159 ATL Building LLC, 447 Stratfield Road, map 31, parcel 202, the riverbank stabilization within a regulated area. Staff recommends approval with conditions. We had the individuals come here, or their representatives come here. They modified their application that answered most of the commissioner's concerns, I think. But we had some public folks come in and oppose it. So
I think at the end, everybody was on board, right? The opposition switched stream. Happy. The only issue in my mind was that tree thing, and I thought that we could do that with the condition that if it's on these people's property, that with Tim and Sarah's supervision, they can remove this tree from the river. I'm comfortable with the conservation easement you proposed. I think there was one other issue that they raised.
I'm not sure though that it can be removed if somebody else owns it.
No, that's what I just said. The condition would be it don't have to be on their property. Somebody else's property that wants to
The
remove it.
tree, though, you showed on the map that it's on town property.
Initially.
Yeah, initially, before.
Somebody had said it may have flown down.
Yeah.
I thought one of the people said, well, that would help stop the flooding downstream or something.
No, it would create,
Once downstream, it gets caught under a culvert, it's gonna act like a dam.
Even more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of,
So that's an indication.
In that big storm in 2018, when they had like that 8 inches of rain, that's what happened. It came down and it blocked that culvert and then created pretty catastrophic flooding down that
Well,
part of the river.
my issue wasn't removing the tree. My issue was removing the tree during, active breeding, active wild, a season of do it in the spring.
Season, okay, so you're not opposed to, remember, it's supposed to wildlife.
Right.
Per se?
Ecosystem,
but we
an
do-
active ecosystem.
Yes, okay. Well, then, if that would be something that, sure, put a motion together, that would be something that they could incorporate into their motion that says if it's one on somebody's property, that if it's on these people's property in the town, then they can, as long as it's done in an appropriate season. I would think something along those lines.
and we also have this same thing with the, no, not the easement, it's the other thing. Oh, the time of year to be done. Yes.
Right, that just
Yeah.
gets back to the
That'd be
same
Right,
issue.
right. But
Yeah.
with actually the work, the physical work for the stream, was conditioned between June and September, or if there's a.
And it's gonna be harder for them to do the work during high flow season anyway. So.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't jive with
No, I agree.
their construction schedule, which is.
Yeah, you wanna put it together?
I make a motion to approve the removal of the tree and the work if it's done.
If the tree is on the.
Tree is on the owner's property and done, let's say, between June and September.
And also done without any equipment entering the.
That ain't heavy machinery.
We're gonna put a chain on it, try to drag it out with an
Okay, then,
excavator.
and in the absence of any heavy machinery in the riverbed itself.
I was gonna say.
No,
we're talking
can't.
about-
That was just a condition.
That's just a condition, yeah.
So should we
But
have
that's
a
a-
motion?
that's-
I think
That's a condition?
But yes, that's a, sorry.
Okay.
I'm making a motion to approve with the condition that, sorry, Sarah. Approve with the condition that the tree is removed, given that the tree is on private,
Applicant's private
the
property.
applicant's private property.
And all scope of work is to be done.
The scope of work is to be done between June and September with no heavy machinery entering the riverbed.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, you okay?
Tired.
That was hurt? Okay.
Wasn't Tim supposed to supervise that operation? Should that be part of it?
I think their point was they wanted to do it right away because they have equipment there now. Or during the construction, yeah.
Yeah, during the construction,
Yeah,
yeah.
but now it's not.
Yeah, I don't think he mentioned that they have
Can't do that work
equipment there now. They're already working on the house.
But with the weather we're having, it's not even.
You can't do that.
No,
What they kept.
during the work on the riverbank restoration thing, I think that's when it would be.
The house is under construction.
The river-
That you saw it now.
Yeah.
Really,
And listen, we can't, I'm trying to say, accommodate
Everybody.
their construction schedule.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the staff recommendation for the work on the riverbank stabilization was during that period of time, so they'd have to get those boulders down, so they would have to have
Right.
stuff going on during that time. So it's,
That's right. It's a moot point.
So all scope of work can be done in June to September.
right, so they're gonna have to do that river stabilization during that.
It's just that he.
Well, they get the tree out of the water.
Well.
is the tree still there?
As long as the tree's still there in 3 months.
This could be a whole other kettle of fish by then.
Hopefully we'll see what happens.
Motion's on
I
the
think
table.
we have a motion on the table.
We have a motion on the table. And I'm sorry, I know it's getting late, but I want to be clear. Sarah, did you take this down? Motion.
Approve the application with the added condition to remove the tree if it's on the owner's property, the scope of work to be conducted between June and September without any heavy machinery in the riverbed and under supervision of conservation department staff.
That's the full motion. I think that, I agree. I think that is the full motion. I want the record to reflect that. And that has been brought forward by Commissioner Bowen and seconded by Commissioner Fain.
Yes.
Okay?
Oh.
Any further discussion in any way, shape, or form? All in favor? Aye. All around. Okay. Moving on.
Question on, I know the vote's over, but can I put one question on regarding the discussion with the two adjacent properties?
Oh.
Either delegating that authority to staff
Yeah.
as staff level permits, or the fact that they would each individually have to come back for the agency.
See any reason to come?
They
back?
shouldn't, yeah, I,
They don't have to come over to the public hearing.
no, it's already been.
Waive the fee.
Yeah.
And we do a secondary motion?
Make an amendment to the motion.
That's, okay, so we can do,
We need a motion.
when no work, yeah, so we need
Second motion, yeah,
second motion?
if they're unrelated.
Okay, so then a second motion, so somebody would have to do it, I can't
Make a
do it.
motion that the additional wetland permits needed for the stream stabilization onto was it the east and west or north or south?
The abutters.
The abutters, be handled at the stat level, not come back before the agency, and also that the fee be waived.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye, yeah, okay, all around, yes, good, thanks for reminding us, Tim. Now we go on to number 2, continued WP 23-153, Redness and Mead, Inc., 875 Mill Hill Road, map 228, parcel 95, construction of a pool, patio, drainage improvements, and fencing within a regulated area. The commissioners eligible to vote are myself, Lucas Thomas, Stephanie Bowen, Dave Flynn, Peter Mahoney, and Ed Singer. I guess let's start with the applicant's request for a fee waiver.
We already do
We
that?
already did
Oh, we
that.
did
We did that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Remember the
We made the adjustment.
$1,180.
We did it right before the track. Okay. Verified petition. So now now the staff recommends approval with conditions. So we can start this.
According to the applicant's counsel, we're supposed to make a finding whether the intervener, did there have
Enough information to,
what their burden of proof.
yeah.
I think that's the first motion. And I, personally, I don't believe it. There was a definitive, proof that there was going to be an adverse impact to the offsite or to the wetlands and water courses. So I would say that they have not made made that burden of proof. I would say that we make that finding.
Okay. Commissioners, any other?
Sorry, I was a little tongue tied there, but
It's okay, but this is just a discussion phase now, so
Are we discussing or are we?
just discussing the verified,
Did everybody, I mean, I thought this was the case they cited was interesting and persuasive.
Okay.
And in the decision said a riparian owner is entitled to the natural flow of the water of the running stream through or along his land. It's a custom channel, undiminished in quality and unimpaired in quality. It's an ancient common law right that he can protect without reference to any beneficial use made by him. So that basically they were saying that if the right is impaired, that's damage. And that it wasn't necessary to find such specific conditions. That's just what the
I think
applicant
that's-
presented. I'm just
saying that?
I'm just putting it out there.
No, I know that case was
He didn't
presented.
offer it. It's not
Yeah,
presented.
It is, but I'm not sure if runoff is the same as a water course.
Right.
well, first of all, I agree with that statement, but also, from my point of view, I didn't see that there was significant evidence that there would be a diminishment flow, which I think is important.
Right. And then when you get to the end of this case, it also says that it kind of leads to the town or the appellate court or Supreme Court, whichever one it is. It's calling it as a taking because they really.
No, it was a different situation.
Yeah, right. This is, they're just modifying the way the water's flowing back in there. Yeah.
What I wanted is I wanted an out loud
Okay.
on the record. I think it was very interesting that they presented it.
Yeah. And they're I can see your point in the sense if it went down that road as a period, and it automatically is a right, then so it's damage. But the court there continued to talk about nominals. Okay, yeah, there's damage. To what degree?
But I do dispute that there's a damage.
Oh, right,
Right.
so, right, I'm not sure that I'm off to say.
I just want to make the record.
I'm very reliable in terms of demanding things be said out loud. That's the trouble I cause here, so.
No,
okay.
it's fine. I just like to make sure.
That's our
that the
deliberative.
And the
record
intervener,
reflects this conversation.
the intervener failed to prove that there's a clay bottom and therefore the water coming through the infiltration system wouldn't
Right.
end up in the pond.
The one expert that they had, and I'm glad that they had somebody, it wasn't that he said, oh no, this is all wrong, the application, it's all wrong, it's, oh my God, there's a better way to do it, that, it was more like, yeah, they're okay, but I can do it this way too, if you just rejigger this, that, or the other. I mean, you get to the same place. The expert didn't say, no, this is so bad, that pond's gonna dry up.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that either, but I think that it's speculation to say that it's a clay bottom and without
Council made that
scientific,
point.
without
Yeah.
some scientific proof that it's a clay bottom and that the infiltrated water will not make it into the pond, or most of it will make it back into the pond.
Well, it'll end up being cleaned when it's filtered through the ground, which is typically what you want to have happen with runoff.
Right.
Wouldn't that make it, that's cleaner
Right,
water?
it's cleaner water. And Ted, I'm glad you said that because I was going to say that runoff, you don't necessarily want runoff going straight into a pond.
Right, off a roof. You don't want roof,
Want to clean.
coming off a roof going into a pond unimpeded.
That's right.
And Ted, that was my feeling, because I really look at the improvement as being a weird kind of riparian buffer. I'm also really not persuaded that the only source of water is the subject property. I just don't. I'm not persuaded.
I apologize on the expert there who said, we're also correcting some of the past that there was nothing done. So probably like that whole neighborhood was designed without any.
Yeah, everybody got to put in a pool except the
That's
applicant.
very frustrating to me.
Clarity.
What was that, Ted?
I said everyone got to put in a pool except the applicants.
Right.
I like that picture, right? It's pool, but not
It
you.
was great.
Not in my backyard, not after the fact. Wasn't there a stating that everybody's a conservationist up until the point where their property are done and nobody else?
And they want to put in their own pool.
Consider, we have to consider the impacts of wetlands and water courses, not who has a pool and not has a pool. But
Of course.
in terms of this intervener, I just don't think they provided the burden of proof that we need to find that there's going to be an impact to the wetlands.
I think their concern is valid.
Yeah.
But I
No, I don't think anybody's saying that. I just don't think that they met the burden.
So
There has to be substantial evidence.
And also, I also want to point out that I think that the applicant and their consultants were clearly trying to develop the best plan that was going to be conscientious about.
Well, I think we should save that conversation to the application.
Right, so I tend to come down on.
For purposes of the intervener, has the intervener provided information pursuant to the statute that the activity of the applicant would so harm?
They haven't provided the burden of proof that it would be an impact to the resource.
Right.
And I think that's a motion on the floor. We have the motions.
Okay.
Can I make one point?
Second. So Commissioner Fain has a motion that the interveners has not proved that harm would be caused by the applicant, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Bone. The motion is that the interveners have not shown that the applicant would cause harm.
The burden of proof that there would be harm to the regulated resource.
Could I make a comment?
Sure.
Yeah. So it seems to me that their expert says that there were some minor things that could be done.
That's
to
again
make
part of the
application acceptable to the interveners. What's the delta that we're looking at?
We need to discuss that as part of the application.
We can bring that up as part of the main application.
The next conversation? All right, because I agree with Commissioner Fain that they didn't meet the burden of proof.
I think that would go to the, what's it called? Reasonable and prudent alternative kind of thing,
Right.
But for now, just for the interveners.
Yeah, I
Motion, we have a
saying that the
second.
interveners didn't accomplish what they were trying to accomplish.
So now the vote in the affirmative would be that the interveners did not meet the burden. So a yes would be that interveners did not meet the burden. Okay?
Right.
In favor of the motion? Aye. That is all around because you couldn't vote, Commissioner Leslie. Okay, so now we go on to the main, on the applicant's application, they had their soil scientist, the water, person, they gave the presentation. They seem to be very amenable to modify it from the last meeting to this meeting. From my time being on this board, to hit every button, we want water to be cleaner and managed, as opposed to just, oh no, put in a pool, we'll let it run off. I'm not sure that I've ever seen that in my time here, but
Right, that's the opposite of what normally someone would ask for.
Right, right. So, any other questions?
Well, that doesn't make it illegitimate in itself. It's just that I personally feel that the water is going to be treated and improved. And I think that's always okay.
And percolate back into the groundwater system.
So there's multiple parts of this. You know, ultimately, the overall application is for a pool. In the
Yeah, pool, patio,
Right.
drainage improvements.
the drainage improvements are kind of ancillary to the pool. So I think we need to make I think that we need to make a finding, first of all, that the pool is okay. In terms of that there's no wetlands in the impact of wetlands, so water question. Also the ancillary things like the stormwater, is okay. And then, I personally don't see that there's, any impacts here that are unmitigated because they have to come up with a, very substantial and to improve the buffer in the wetlands.
As the information provided.
I'd like to know what the cost of that pool is gonna be by square foot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Commissioner O'Mahony, you had something. No, or?
No, I was just gonna say, I do give it to the intervener that they're concerned for the wildlife in the area. I think that we all are very pleased to see that you have gone, above and beyond to protect this pond, and that to be rest assured that everybody on this commission is just as concerned about the wildlife in the area.
Right.
Does the fact that the pond is man-made enter into this at all?
No,
No.
that was determined at the last meeting, that whether it is man-made or natural, it's still
Part of the
It's still
wetland, yeah.
And I'll just reiterate that I think the intervener's concern is valid. I think that more factual evidence is needed to really make the case that there was damage that was going to be done.
Well, I hinge my opinion on the map, exhibit number 2 from Redness and Mead. That's a topographic map showing the flow of water into the pond from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 properties around the pond. So to say that all of the water flow is coming from the applicant's property, I don't see that.
Right.
And I don't see that they prove that.
That's where I really feel very strongly about that.
So, I felt they provided what I would consider substantial evidence. I heard no substantial evidence that there would be an adverse impact. I felt, I'm not sure what section of it, 10.2 of our regulations or, considerations and provisions. I think that they've met my personal things, they've met all those standards in terms of, there's no loss of resources. We've considered feasible and prudent alternatives.
They listed all of our concerns. They addressed each one of them.
I think they went beyond, they tried to go beyond that. They bent over that.
Right.
It's really going to be the one property that offers some sort of, my trouble with this whole pond is that there's no green strip around. None exists.
Yeah.
And that's very frustrating to see grass.
Right up to the edge.
That's not what a wetland,
The only thing that, thing that I wanted to change when I asked Mr. Kenny and they said it was okay, was to incorporate the, fall fescue, low maintenance grasses into the.
Yeah, like sedges.
Yeah.
No mow area. So the other question is, the expert came up and said a 20-foot section of pipe and moving the outlet for the sump pump would appease the interveners. What would that cost to do that?
I didn't feel like, first of all, he's not the engineer of record, and I don't believe he wants to become the engineer of record. And without a plan, without something to look at to understand that, I wouldn't be comfortable making those that condition of approval.
Right.
Well, I'm just asking the question rhetorically because there may not be a huge delta between what currently is being proposed and what would satisfy the interveners, so everybody could be happy.
Right. So I think the answer, not the answer, but would that be some sort of feasible
that be a potential
alternative?
condition?
It might not be feasible or prudent. I don't, you know.
I
Yeah.
think Mr. Flaherty provided testimony that in his opinion that it would, the only change would be there would be less infiltration, a little bit more detention, but he felt that the net result would be the same.
Same. Okay, so then that was there. Okay.
Yeah, I think the applicants have gone above and beyond, to be honest.
And did Mr. Kenny say that under grass thing, it would be a minimum?
Yes.
It's what's the comments, but.
Yeah,
Right,
sure.
he said he
Oh,
would, he
yeah.
would make an effort, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he just went beyond that. He said they would do it. The 12 fescue. I didn't say the no mow, 12 fescue, which I think is the fine alternative. So all the grass that we use now, it's a better alternative than bluegrass or ryegrass.
Right.
Should we make a motion?
I can. So whoever wants to, and then see what happens.
I'll make a motion to approve the application with the conditions set forth by the department,
By the staff.
by the staff.
And adding
Do
the
you wanna-
condition, the 12 fescue.
Do you want to use it? Okay, so with the condition that they see their lawn with fescue.
What was it, the full lawn? or-
So I think we only have jurisdiction over what we have jurisdiction.
Oh,
With
the-
that-
okay, the-
Whatever that area is.
Yeah, Bill Kenny took care of that, I think.
Yep, okay. Any second to that motion? Commissioner
Second.
Hood seconds that. All in favor? All around.
Can I say this one thing? I think Sarah and I may be the only people in this room that were there for the original application.
But the second time I had boots.
Oh, I felt like it was a really long time ago. It's been a long journey, and I'm glad that you're gonna get your pool.
Thank you all very much.
Oh, wait, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that was, yes, the adjournment.